Turn it around.
This entire area of our community, this whole area right here, that's all of us. It will be blighted. That means that it becomes a condemnation zone. That means our property values immediately begin to fall. No one will make investments in our community. There are many, many, many issues about Mr. McKee's plan that we must take issue with. Unfortunately, we've not had a whole lot of time to educate because we've had to work so quickly with the plan itself. So please open up, ask questions. We always bring the professionals and the experts to the community to answer the questions of the community. And please, whatever you're thinking, ask it. Don't be afraid.
I'd like to address that, what you just brought up. I want to address real quickly what Ramon just brought up about what happens when an area is named blighted. It's all right. The first thing that I would say, everyone right now needs to document the condition of your home. Take pictures. If you have done work on your house in the last year or two, if you put money into your house, document it. Make sure that you've got all of that material collected, because the Missouri Supreme Court here in the last year and a half handed down a decision, and they've acknowledged for a long time that when a city calls an area blighted, that the property values drop because of it. They just decided in the last year and a half that if your property value has dropped because of a blight designation, then you can receive compensation for that from the city. But you've got to prove it. And there's probably going to be a pretty high burden of proof. So the first thing I would tell anyone is go home and document the condition of your property and the amount of money that you have put into it, because if you can prove that your property values eventually drop because the city called it blighted, you might be able to recover something from it. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, I would encourage you not to let happen here what has happened in other communities. If they do call this area blighted, down in Hadley Township, just south of Clayton, in I believe Maplewood or Richmond Heights, people immediately quit taking care of their properties. And the area was not actually in that bad a condition to begin with. But after a couple of years of people not taking care of their properties, all of a sudden, it's hard to argue that it's not blighted anymore. Here, if you can document the condition of your properties, and then if you make an agreement among each other that you're going to do what you can to keep them up, even if they call the area blighted, you'll stand a better chance of being able to keep it in the long run. So those are just a couple of pieces of practical advice that I've got for you. Yes, ma'am.
When whoever it is that decides it, do they weigh houses as they exist with homeowners taking care of them against a balance of decrepit homes, say like the ones that Paul Mickey has allowed to go to pieces?
That's a good question. She asked if when they're making a decision about placing a blight designation, if they weigh the homes that are well kept against the homes that have been let fall into disrepair. I wish I had better news for you on that one. Missouri revised its laws back in 2006, and the way they revised them should have provided some help that way. It would have said that they really had to prove that so many different lots in a block were blighted before they could label the entire block blighted. One of the courts out in the western part of the state read the law differently than I think it should have been read. And so now they don't really balance the truly decrepit properties against the properties that are being kept up. Now, I think that it's still important that you keep your properties up, but essentially, under Missouri law, if a city wants to say something is blighted, they will be able to say it's blighted. Cities have a lot of leeway to make up their own definition of blight. When you think about blight, you think about buildings that are practically falling down. And as Missouri law has been interpreted, to a great extent, it doesn't matter how well you keep up your home. If your neighbor doesn't keep up their home, then you can still fall into a blighted area. Does that answer your question?
It sure does.
Okay.
I guess it seems very strange to me because I've been reading about how in the city of Clayton.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
I was reading about how in the city of Clayton, a functional and fully occupied shopping center was declared blighted and sold to a larger developer who just put a larger shopping center where the smaller one had been, and that fit the Missouri law or designation of blight.
That's a great story because it's a little bit wrong.
Oh, good.
There have been cases where they allowed cities to take older shopping centers and give them away to newer shopping centers. There have been cases that have allowed that to happen. But what happened a couple of years ago in Clayton? As you all know, Clayton is an economically depressed community. Yeah. Did y'all get that memo? Yeah, the city of Clayton said that an office building over there, which was perfectly well maintained and I believe fully occupied, they tried to say it was blighted. Why? Because Centene Corporation wanted it to be blighted so they could take it and build their world headquarters there. So Centene says, oh, well, we can't come to an agreement with the owners of this building. They won't sell to us for the price we want to give them, and so we have to have eminent domain. Well, that went all the way to the Missouri Supreme Court, and that was the first case in Missouri history where the Missouri Supreme Court drew a line and said, we can call a lot of things blighted, we can't call an office building in Clayton blighted. So, like I talked about, there have been some signs of hope from the Missouri Supreme Court that they're ready to start drawing lines at what cities can do. And the situation in Clayton is one of those examples where I think we can have some hope because for one point in time, they did say enough is enough on this. But yeah, thank you for raising that point.
Got questions?
Yes, sir.
How do we go by educating ourselves on eminent domain? I know this is my first time ever hearing it.
Yeah, it's gonna move
Come up here, sister. I wanted to know, as people, how do we educate ourselves about eminent domain? Because this is my first time ever hearing this word, or the very first time. And the reason why that I'm here, because I had no education about this. So how do we go about educating ourselves and know what this is and know how to fight or know what to do or when to do it or how to do it or even how to get off into our neighborhoods to let other people know who did not come out tonight what is going on? Reverend Fowler is going to be talking a little bit about that. Yeah, on the next page.
Great, yeah. Ramona says that Reverend Fowler is going to be talking a little bit about that. I will chip in that if you have internet access, I would recommend www.castlecoalition.org. That's a website that the Institute for Justice has set up for people in this situation. It lets you learn a little bit about eminent domain as a concept, how the process tends to function. And they have a tool that I think is extremely valuable. It's called the Eminent Domain Survival Guide. And it's a little packet of information, and they'll be happy to provide that to you. But it's a little packet of information for people just like you, where you don't necessarily know a lot about eminent domain, you don't know what things to do. The Eminent Domain Survival Guide that the Institute for Justice hands out will help answer a lot of those questions. And the other thing, rely on your community. You know, that's one of the strongest things you guys have going for you is each other. You know, lean on each other. And use each other as resources. Educate each other, and you got a chance. You got a chance to fight back.
Okay, we're going to move on. Our schedule is. Thank you, Dave. Can we give Dave a hand, please? Yes. The next person that's going to come and speak with us is Reverend Fowler, and he's going to tell.